If you're handicapping it right now, where do you think Watson lands?
Yeah, I would say Denver. Mike mentioned Drew Lock. The one thing John Elway has not been able to do since Peyton Manning is land an adequate quarterback. And we've obviously seen Osweiler there. We've seen Drew Lock. We've seen Paxton Lynch. Maybe they can get Deshaun Watson and put together a really good package. He mentioned Brian Burns in Carolina. That would be a big coup for them if they can get Brian Burns. I don't know if they would ultimately make that deal, but I would be really interested, too, about Miami in the sense that you draft Tua as high as they did. He gets benched ultimately at the end of the year for Fitzpatrick. Do they really believe in him, the Dolphins, long-term, Mike's old team, to invest in him and build, draft receivers, maybe Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. So we'll see. But I do think ultimately out of those three, Denver makes the most sense.
Am I crazy for thinking the Houston Texans are still the front runner for Deshaun Watson's services next year? As bad as this looks, this is not the NBA where superstars are able to force a trade as easy as we see in the association, right? Deshaun Watson's been to 3 straight Pro Bowls. He's a franchise guy. He's a top 10, possibly top 5 quarterback in the league. He's only 25 years old, and even though the contract he just signed is a monster, those are going to be good prices for what he can deliver over the next few years. Remember, if he wants to sit out this year, that's fine. He's not going to get paid. And when he comes back next year, his contract is going to pick up right where he left off. He's not scheduled to make the big-time bank vault busting contract this year. That doesn't kick in until next season. I think he gets about $10 million in cash this year and then $40 million the following season. So am I nuts for thinking Houston might be the front runner to be starting Watson in week 1 next year?
Joseph, you are nuts. Yes, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And you said it. He really hasn't gotten paid yet for a guy that led the NFL in passing yards, and like you said, is 25. The truth is, these types of players, 25-year-old franchise quarterbacks, do not come on the market. We can talk about Wentz and Stafford, but Watson is an elite top 3, top 5 quarterback in the league. And Houston has messed this up from the beginning, all the way back to the Bill O'Brien years. And I think for me, the relationship is so fractured, and rightfully so, on Deshaun's end with the Texans, that it's not salvageable. So yes, Joe, I believe you're crazy.
Well, then if I'm going outside the crazy spectrum, I'm probably going to lean to Carolina. Obviously, it's a front runner right now, but they now have the 6th most salary cap space in the NFL after some wheeling and dealing over the last few days. So they make a lot of sense. They got a great head coach, offensive coordinator tandem in Matt Rule and Joe Brady, and a lot of the metrics point to them improving on that 5-11 record from last year. Speaking of the Texans, I got your thoughts on Deshaun Watson and where he might go. Where do you think J.J. Watt ends up when it's all said and done?
Yeah, we've talked about Pittsburgh. The brothers Watt, all 3 of them, making a lot of sense. He says he's in no rush. It's my understanding he wants to take his time. But the more I think about this and the more I ask around, Green Bay does make a lot of sense. They certainly could use him. He could win a Super Bowl there. I would love to see J.J. Watt, and I think a lot of people would, in a position to get a ring finally at 32 years old. So obviously he's from that area. He went to Wisconsin. Green Bay makes a lot of sense for me. And by the way, wouldn't he make that defense elite? Mike said he's not the same player, fine, but he's still a very good player. I know you talked about the durability issues, Joseph, but you got to admit, if he's in Green Bay, he's playing a lot of snaps.
He improves the team in a variety of ways. The leadership angle, the hustle angle, the defensive angle. I don't disagree with any of that. What I wonder about is what his mindset is in free agency. Is he looking to make every last dollar? Because if he is, Green Bay's 25th in cap space, Pittsburgh's 26th in cap space. Those teams don't have a lot of money. And traditionally, Green Bay doesn't like to get very splashy when it comes to free agency. That's something Aaron Rodgers can tell you about. They like to build through the draft, much like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Complicating factors is that the salary cap is rolling back from $200 million a year to about $180 million this year because of the lack of fans and the revenues that were lost last season. Now, Watts made $100 million in his career just on the field. I shudder to think through investments and through endorsements what he's brought in as well. But if he decides that money is not going to be the bottom issue here, it's not going to be the number one priority, then any team is in play, especially Green Bay and Pittsburgh. But if he wants to cash in, I really think there are only a handful of teams out there that can sign him. So what do you think? Do you think he wants to cash in, or after only, 3 career playoff victories in Houston, maybe he's willing to take less?
No, I think more the latter, and also realistically, to our point, or to your point, I should say, last week when you said, at 32 years old, not having been on the field a lot these last few years, I don't know what type of deal he could get potentially. But so I think Green Bay, you mentioned not having a lot of cap space, but it's an opportunity to win a championship, to have a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, a great fan base, and to come back home where it all started and finish his career. To me, the Packers make the most sense, and the Steelers as well because of his brothers and the fact that that's still an elite team if they can solve the quarterback issue.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.